I wanted to bring somebody in at every hour that has a legal perspective. What are we in right now? Is this a constitutional crisis?
Yes, we are in a constitutional crisis. We are in a crisis. The nation's democracy has been challenged at every turn. And we've got at least, another 15 days of this, 14, 15 days. We don't know what other shenanigans he will try to pull off. We've got questions of sedition, attempts at anarchy. It's not just disorderly conduct that the DC police can arrest for. The question is whether or not we would do something at a higher level, because what this president has done, even in the words that we just heard a few minutes ago, he has incited people. He has essentially in some ways conspired with people to take action. He stood on that campaign debate stage and told the Proud Boys to stand down, stand by, stand back, stand by, right? And then told them to come out on January 6th and storm the Capitol. So he has engaged in what some might say is sedition. Two more people conspiring to overthrow the government and the democratic process.
Do the Democrats have the testicular fortitude to actually follow through? And that's, so as I watch this play out, and this man has thwarted and flaunted all kinds of legal, the law and what the Constitution says and what's proper and what it means to be a good American. He's pissed all over the Constitution. And there always seems to be like, well, let us, they impeached, they have no problem impeaching, you know what I'm saying? Right. And trying, lock her up and all this bull crap. I mean, how many hours did Hillary Clinton have to get hemmed up over those emails? And she actually won more votes, and this didn't happen. She didn't do this.
Absolutely. Well, but remember, the stakes are bigger here, right? Because it's not just that he lost, but he lost, one term, so he'll go down as a one-term president. He lost, and the nation sees that he lost to somebody he would label an old man, and then a woman of color, right? So I mean, how worse can it get for this guy? You ask whether or not the Democrats have the testosterone, the testicular, capacity to do this. I have to tell you that before coming on the show, I listened to President-elect Joe Biden speak out against these, heinous, egregious actions on the part of American citizens. And at one point he started, he started, just kind of almost like in a chant, enough is enough is enough is enough. And all I could think to myself is, if that's all you got, Joe, like, we've learned that, being the president of the United States and telling somebody to go home doesn't mean anything.
Means nothing. 866-801-8255. And Ossoff has officially won. Well, he claimed victory already. Right. John Ossoff already claimed victory. Now it's official. So Georgia is, there's now 50-50. Kamala Harris is deciding vote. So now we actually have a Congress, a House of Representatives, and a Senate that can work in lockstep with a president and a vice president to pass laws. They must do it now. They must do all of the things. They must not leave anything on the table to not get done.
We do have a problem, though. We still have a problem.
What's the problem?
The problem is that, the 50-50 with the tiebreaker vote by Kamala Harris, with her presiding as vice president, does allow for appointments to go through very quickly and very smoothly, executive branch appointments, and some that would have been more controversial, like the budget director, they'll go through very quickly because you only need a simple majority. The judicial appointments to the federal district, appellate, circuit, and Supreme Court appointments, those will go through with the 51 majority. Major legislation is still a challenge because major legislation still requires a supermajority, 2/3 of the Senate. Now, Trump was able to get some legislation through, like tax reform, because what they did was they attached it to budget reconciliation. And so they said that, like with budget, it was attached to a budget bill. So it wasn't tax reform in the truest, most absolute sense. It's tied to a budget that says they won't spend more or cause a deficit to grow beyond a certain amount over a certain period of time. But trying to get through major reforms, let's say in healthcare, may prove to be a really big problem. Trying to get through major reforms in environmental protection still may prove to be a very big problem. Immigration legislation still could prove to be a very big problem if the majority Senate with Kamala Harris casting the deciding vote can't find another nine Republican senators. So we're not completely out of the woods.
So why not executive order the hell out? I mean, I just feel like,
Yep, that's what's going to have to happen.
We know who they are now. Mitch McConnell can have the platitudes that he had today and make some good damn sense finally, but I don't trust it. We know that it's self-preservation. You know,
absolutely. But he got what he wanted, right? You know, he got his several hundred judges. He got his three Supreme Court judges. He's got judges in position at the Supreme Court that will, you know, overturn more liberal and progressive decisions that have been made over the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years. He got that. And so, you know what, he can walk away even if he's been disgraced. And they've all been disgraced. I mean, what's happening right now out there on Capitol Hill? This is not just Trump. This is the Republicans who've allowed this.
I had Dr. Greg Carr earlier, and he was like, yeah, I'm not, you know, surprised, because we have been talking about this for months, actually. And I've actually been talking about the Civil War not being over, you know, like people are still fighting it. And, you know, only we thought it was over. They're still fighting. And so I went through these battles that have been lost, you know, throughout the years that kind of lend. And then they come into Congress today, break through the windows, and they are waving the Confederate flag because the war is still on. So the question is, what side are you on? But more importantly, more and more Americans need to wake up to there are only two sides to this. You no longer have the opportunity to sit on the sidelines and, oh, well, you know, I don't want to, you know, and if you have family members, listen, there's got to be a lot of demarcation.
Right. And, you know, and what people need to take note of is we need to go and look at this this American map and look at the red and the blue and the purple places, because there are red pockets in blue states, right? There are blue pockets in predominantly red states. And as you talk about Civil War, don't think if you're up in the Northeast that, you know, that everything's going to be good, because, you know, here in New York alone, here in New York City, we've got some red pockets where people, you know, they're getting silly out there. And so, you know, we all need to be concerned about this. This is not just playing out right now in DC. This has the potential to, like, you know, to fold over and spill over into your backyard.
So what do we do with that? And I think you're right. I had a friend of mine call me today. Should I go to the store? What should we, you know, I was like, well, don't you live it doesn't matter, because I think my neighbors, I'm not sure, you know, like people are panicking, and then that panic sets in, and all it takes is one rock being thrown through your window.
Right.
Off to the races, right? So all of those flags that people have been flying, and the signs on their lawn telling you what their allegiance is to. You know, I happen to live in a neighborhood where there's a lot of Black Lives Matter, and we're in this together, and I feel a sense of safety. But what about those houses that have no lawn signs because they don't want to put out, you know, where they stand? It's time for people to know who their neighbors are and what they stand for, and draw the lines. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think it's important to do that. I also think that it's important that, you know where people stand. People know where you stand, but also try to keep your cool, remain very calm right now, because people are on edge. They're on edge about this election. They're on edge because of COVID. They're on edge because of centuries of race discrimination. They're on edge because they've lost their jobs. I mean, it just, you know, there's so many things to be on edge about. So yeah, you need to be clear on where you stand and where your neighbors stand. But this is not the day. This is not the time necessarily to go out and, you know, literally start like fist bumping certain people and fist fighting with other people. Because you don't know where this is going to go, where it's going to jump off right now. And I think that it's only going to intensify. You know, my daughter, who is 23, she and I were just saying to one another just a short while ago that we're not surprised about what is happening right now down at the Capitol. We're only surprised that it took this long. We thought something was going to jump off, the day after the election on November 3rd. And what people need to keep in mind is that it's actually not happening right now because Ossoff and Warnock won. The people out there at the Capitol right now, they may not even know that's happened just yet. They're out there because they were called for by their leader, by Trump. They're showing up because this was the day for the ceremonious, casting of the electoral college votes to actually ceremoniously usher Biden into the presidency. That's why they're out there. They're not out there because now all of a sudden the Senate is no longer theirs. So we still may have another round. I don't mean to get people anxious, but I'm just saying this is not over. The National Guard coming in, Maryland and Virginia sending in their troops, it ain't over.
As I watch on Twitter, police officers taking selfies with the anarchists. Yeah. Miriam Bowser, mayor of DC, called in the National Guard, but where are they? Why aren't they stopping this? I saw them out there when Black folk and others were protesting, police brutality. I saw them out there making sure that they put the barricades up around the White House and they tear gas people and rubber bulleted people, put folk eyes out. I saw them really, really aggressive. I don't see them really aggressive today, Jennifer Jones Austin, which makes me feel like they're complicit. And what do we do with that as American citizens? We can't depend on people to protect us from anarchy.
Right. Well, remember, a lot of around the nation, a lot of our law enforcement organizations have been supportive of Trump and his presidency. They feel like he's the only one who, through the summer, when we were talking about Black Lives Matter and the fact that Black people should not be essentially targets for for gun shooting and people just get some gun shooting practice in. They got behind this president. Some of them went out there. Some of these fraternal police orders endorsed him. So we shouldn't be surprised that they're out there right now taking selfies with him because this is their man. And I think that many of them know that they're not going to overthrow the government and the people's decision right now. But I think many of them know that. But what many of them feel is that they can put fear in the hearts of Americans, the nation over. And remember, sometimes fear is greater. The bark is worse than the bite, right? Just the fear that you could do something to me will maybe cause me to stand down. So what they're trying to do right now is to stir up fear in Americans across the nation.
Let's head over to Stuart. Stuart in Florida. Welcome.
Hi, Karen. Hi, and your guest. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Yes, you touched on one of my points. My first point is that it was a mixed message that Trump sent out. he was still knocking the process while telling them to go home. And then,
what were they going to listen to? I was robbed.
Exactly.
This was a fraud.
Right.
This was a fake election.
Exactly.
But go home in peace.
Yes, exactly. And the other thing I noticed was these cops being complicit. And the other thing was these guys were rushing into the rotunda, rushing and fighting with the cops. And you know what I didn't see? I didn't see the cops shoot anybody.
Right.
And this is a situation worse than someone standing next to a car, inside a car, with not doing anything and getting shot. And also the lady a few years ago who went through the barricade in D.C., they shot her in the car with a kid.
The child, yeah.
So I don't see the law and order.
I can't help but think that it all ties back to the value of human life. It all ties back to race and racism and thinking about it through the lens and frame of whose life actually matters, right? The Black Lives Matter mantra, and chant has greater meaning than just three words thrown together that we can all say we relate to. What it's really speaking to is there are those who believe that we can disregard the humanity of certain people of color, and that certain other people, are superior, and that they need to be protected at all costs. And so when those cops, those security officers in the Capitol saw their white brothers and sisters coming at them, charging at them in lunatic-like fashion, their lives were still important, of value. And they've been taught and they've been led to believe, I can't take that person's life because that person's life means something. But if they look at a Black person, well, no, they are less human. They play on a different level. I can engage with depraved indifference for that person's life. That's what it comes down to.
Miriam Carey was her name, October 3rd, 2013. That was a woman that was gunned down with her child in the car, and she was suffering mental health situation. She was unarmed. And nobody went to jail. Nobody got brought up on charges, and she's dead. And last I heard, that death is permanent. It's like the whoopsie. We just this yesterday or the day before yesterday, the Blake, the gentleman that was shot in the back, unarmed, he was he might have been reaching for a weapon, but 9 times in the back, 9 times. Breonna Taylor, all of those bullets, really, that was warranted? So the cops are fired now, but Breonna Taylor's dead. And you can't come back from that. And the fact that is not, to me, the training isn't to preserve life so that we can have justice, so people can be, go to court and be tried in a court of law and have due process. We've eliminated due process on the streets as it relates to Black and brown people, and that's a problem.
Right, but Karen, that's because due process, it takes me back to what I was just saying a minute ago. Due process is afforded to someone who you believe is worthy of due process, right? Training will only go but so far, because my training only extends to those people who I believe are worthy and valuable to receive the benefits of the training I've been given. If my mindset, if my value base, if my attitude is that you are less than human, you're not worthy of the benefit of the doubt, your life does not matter as much, then all of that stuff, training, due process, it doesn't apply.
We have some decisions to make about the types of towns we want to live in, how we are going to govern ourselves. Georgia today was, or last night into today, with the election of Ossoff. I think he's one of the youngest senators to go to Congress in like 40 or 50 years. And the first Black man elected from the state of Georgia to sit in the Senate, in Reverend Warnock. That rings a bell, but it rings a bell really to say, we want to have, not this obstruction. But it's not a ringing endorsement, because it was a slim margin. I think Ossoff won by 200 or 1,000 votes, maybe. It was 0.5%. 0.5%. That's not a ringing endorsement that we wanted something different. 74 million people voted for Trump. That's not a ringing endorsement that we wanted. To me, it's not a mandate, even though Biden got nearly 7 million more votes. It's not a mandate.
Absolutely. And we also have to keep in mind that it essentially was a, it was kind of a pushback at the Republicans and at Trump. All the things that they were saying about how fraudulent was the election, trying to discount the votes of people, trying to essentially knock out the votes of people. It was not a ringing endorsement per se of even Democrat beliefs.